Hello, I'm Cody the Coin Raptor, and in today's video, I want to go ahead and talk about what has been going on with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Binance Coin over the long term, specifically looking at long-term chart TA and the individual metrics that are so important to these blockchains. So we're going to go ahead and get started. But before we get to that, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you really like this information, and also go ahead and leave a comment and let me know what you guys think about what is going on in the crypto market. Definitely appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and first start with our Bitcoin long-term chart TA. And so as a reminder, for the long-term chart TA, I look at the weekly. So the interval I have right up here is the weekly interval, as opposed to having like the daily or hourly, in which I usually wind up doing just short-term chart TA. But I like to do these videos to kind of analyze the longer-term trend, because I think at the end of the day, the longer-term trend is more important than the short term. So starting with our Bitcoin chart TA, what we're seeing here is Bitcoin has broken out of this downtrend, this down channel that I've put in here. And this happened at about, I'd say, during December of 2022. But you can kind of see that as soon as it broke out of this channel here, it immediately started a new upwards channel. And again, that happened December, January, when it finally broke out. And we can see here that we have a longer term uptrend. Now, you can kind of look at this and say, okay, so what was the predicting factor here that would give us some idea that Bitcoin had kind of reversed course? And to that, I would answer, if you take a look at your weekly RSI, so your RSI down here, you can see that there is a point in which it actually broke out from resistance here at about 40 or so on the weekly. And as soon as Bitcoin kind of broke out above that 40 spot on the weekly, which is the previous peak set back in October, but as soon as it broke out of that, you immediately saw a move up in the price, and you see from it going from 40 all the way up here to about 58, and then moving sideways for a bit, and then another rally taking it all the way up here to 70 overbought, and then a fade after that point. So the predicting factor here was always the RSI, and I've always come out and I've said that probably one of the most important indicators for Bitcoin or Ethereum or other crypto is taking a look at the RSI, and specifically the long-term trend for the RSI. And this caused a huge move to the upside. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this short-term, this downtrend here, and we can look at the new uptrend that was put in place. Now, what's interesting about this is that we've kind of started to move sideways and a little bit farther back. I've said before that it seems likely we'll wind up going to 25K, but what you're noticing right now is that it's kind of right at that support line for this upwards channel. It's at about, this support here is at about 26,200. Now, if Bitcoin breaks through this level, then that would certainly wind up absolutely affirming to me that we are likely to wind up seeing a 25K. And if that's the case, then this weekly uptrend here that I have drawn out is over. However, even if it does go down to that level, you can kind of still move the trend here a little bit and still see that we are in a longer term uptrend. Even if we were to come all the way down here to about 25K, or even just a little bit under that point, we can see that there's still a long-term uptrend, but it would be the nullification here of this current channel. Okay, it would just be a slight modification of that, but otherwise the intermediate uptrend for Bitcoin is still intact. And of course, if you looked at the absolute longer term trend of Bitcoin, and that is, if I go over here instead, move over to log, you can kind of see this better. But the total trend of Bitcoin for the entirety of its history is still a very strong uptrend. And in fact, this looks like a small footnote in Bitcoin's larger history. So we go ahead and change it back here to back to log, and we come back over here and we just see that our short-term uptrend right now, for the moment, is intact. Now, for Bitcoin's long-term metrics, I want to go ahead and take a look at one of the most important ones, and that is your network hash rate. I have the 1 year here for the network hash rate, and it seems like we're very close to an all-time high for the network hash rate. We're set right now to about 367 exahashes per second, when the peak here was 370. And it's really important to just look at this and just see the almost exponential increase to the network hash rate, and seeing that miners right now are in such a good position that they're bringing more miners online, more ASICs, more mining rigs online. And that kind of underscores the health of the overall Bitcoin economy. So I always kind of like to use network hash rate as kind of a substitute for the health of the Bitcoin economy. Now, you can see that during the lows of the bear market here, we had a significant dip both in November and in December, right before the start of the year. And those kind of also gave us an idea here that the Bitcoin economy back then wasn't good. But then as soon as the year starts, we see a huge ramp up in the hash rate, largely driven by the Bitcoin price. As the price goes up, more miners come in, and miners are more profitable as the price goes up. So right now we're starting to see that the Bitcoin economy has actually been fairly strong for the past 5 months. And if we look at our Bitcoin active addresses, we can also see something similar start to play out here, in which you have the 1 year here, and you've seen a dramatic increase in the number of active addresses on the blockchain itself. And especially if we go here to year to date, we can see that it's gone up pretty dramatically. I mean, from the start of the year, we're looking at from 867,000 all the way up here to 905,000. So we've had a significant increase in the number of active addresses on the blockchain. And this has largely been driven by things like ordinals and BRC20 tokens, as well as strength in the Bitcoin and Lightning network as well. Also, we're going to go ahead and take a look at our Ethereum as well. So with Ethereum, we have a similar kind of uptrend here for the long-term chart TA, and it kind of nicely fits into an uptrend. Apart from this one week here, in which Ethereum went all the way up here to about 2,000 or about 2,100, and what you can see here is that it was firmly rejected, came all the way back down again, and now, just like Bitcoin, it's testing the bottom end of this upwards channel here, and it looks like it wants to fall through this channel. Now, this right here, again, if it falls through that channel, doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the uptrend, but we'd have to redraw the uptrend channels in order to figure out where that next level of support would be. And as I've said before, I am very interested in seeing if it goes down to 1,500 or if it goes down to 1,700, somewhere in that region. I think it's more likely it'll be going down to about 1,700, and I'd be very interested in adding to positions at that point. Now, just like with Bitcoin, if you look at the weekly RSI, you can kind of see that it had, in this case, more of an uptrend compared to Bitcoin. The RSI, again, was probably one of the strongest indicators of the actual bottom, which occurred back in June of 2022. That dump off went all the way about to $900, and the RSI went down to 26. Now, that is incredibly low. It was oversold pretty dramatically, and that led to the bottoming of the Ethereum price, and then we had a huge move to the upside on the upgrade news of EIP 1551, and then another move to the upside on Shapella as well, which happened in April. That's why you're starting to see both of these huge moves to the upside here were related to the upgrades upcoming for Ethereum. So in that same vein, new upgrades that will be coming to the Ethereum mainnet will also most likely be boosting the price as well. And so I also want to go ahead and take a look at Ethereum's important metrics, such as your active addresses. Now, for Ethereum, this is a little bit different compared to Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, we saw a pretty dramatic increase in the number of active addresses. Again, bringing this up here, we see it's been just nothing but an increase. Now, if we take a look at the Ethereum active addresses, this is only up just slightly, because we started here all the way at about May of 2020 with 266,000, and we've ended to this point at about 308,000. Now that is an increase, but it's not a dramatic increase, and it's mostly kind of been sideways since about 2021. That being said, active addresses does not tell the whole story. And if we take a look at some other important metrics, such as your total value staked, that kind of paints a different picture. So after Ethereum had its upgrade in which it went to ETH 2.0, we saw a dramatic increase to the number of total value staked because it became a proof of stake network or a proof of stake blockchain as opposed to proof of work. And so we're starting to see that during the number of total value staked, we have a pretty steady increase in the amount here. If we actually take a look at the all-time, we can see that, again, it started off here. They started at 0 because they had 0 value staked, and then we went all the way up here to about 21 million. Now, what's interesting about this is that lately we've seen a huge increase in the number of stakers, and if we zoom out here, we can see that prior to this, at about April 11th, April 12th, that was when that Ethereum upgrade hit for Shapella, and that kind of caused a huge run up here for the total value staked. It went all the way from 17,700,000 to about 21,765,000. So that was a pretty massive increase in the amount of total value staked in the Ethereum blockchain. So what this is saying to me right now is that there's a large number of Ethereum stakers out there that are trying to take advantage of that 5% APR that they get for staking. And it almost seems like this is kind of a good hedge that they're looking at. A lot of users and investors are staking their Ethereum in order to hedge against a future risk because they know they're going to get that 5% APR, that 5% return, and they don't have to worry about the price of Ethereum fluctuating all over the place as much. So that is one story of Ethereum. So the total value staked has gone up dramatically, and we take a look at total supply on the other hand. This is very important, right? The total supply of Ethereum, and if we go ahead and zoom out to the all-time, we can see that after we had that upgrade, EIP 1551, we had Ethereum move from an inflationary, right? So it moved upwards here. The number of issued Ethereum had been on a steady incline until we get to that upgrade in which we're starting to see Ethereum actually start to deflate. So instead of going up, now it's going back down, and we're starting to see a decrease in the amount of ETH in supply. Okay, and that is incredibly important because if there's less Ethereum in supply and there's a higher increase in demand, you're also going to get a higher increase in price as well. So any sort of demand increase for Ethereum will push the price up much, much higher than it would be in the past because there's simply less ETH to go around. Okay, so that is just an incredibly important fact of Ethereum that I always like to mention, and the fact that this trend that we saw back in September of 2022, it has continued to decrease the amount of total available supply for Ethereum since that upgrade. Now, I also want to go ahead and talk about our Binance Coin as well. So Binance Coin's been kind of a sleeper this whole time. We take a look at the huge increases for Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last 5 months, and Binance Coin has just simply lagged by comparison. We can see there's still an uptrend intact. It still went from about 243 all the way up here to about 350, but it's really not broken out above that strong resistance point here at 350 for the longer term trend. And right now, it's still very close to that lower end of this channel here at about 300. And just like with Bitcoin and Ethereum, we could wind up seeing it pull back into a different upwards channel and maybe even actually start heading sideways, because right now the trend for Binance Coin has been sideways since about May. Because remember, May, it was up here at about 334, and then it moves up a little bit, moves down, moves up, moves up, moves up, moves down, and it's kind of just sideways since then. And it has yet to overcome that incredibly important that incredibly important resistance level at 350. So that's what I'm looking at right now for Binance Coin, looking to see if that support holds here at, again, 300, and then if it can break out above here at about 350, okay? Now, I want to go ahead and start talking about what's going on next week, because next week is also going to be an important week for crypto. And we're going to go ahead and start off with the U.S. economic calendar from MarketWatch. Now, we're having on Monday U.S. Fed President James Bullard speaking. He is incredibly hawkish when it comes to the Fed, and so I expect that he's going to be incredibly hawkish when he gives his press conference here. And then what's also going on here is that they have the Fed's May FOMC meeting minutes coming out. That's always something that causes the market to move dramatically. We have the second reading of GDP, which is also really important for the U.S., and jobless claims as well. And that's on Thursday. And then Friday, we have core PCE and PCE index. This is important to determine whether or not prices are continuing to fall or they're going to be rising. And again, all this plays into what the Fed's going to be doing, and the Fed raising and lowering interest rates has an impact on traditional markets as well as crypto as well. So this is going to be an important week for crypto. Maybe not as crazy as last week was, but this will wind up being a very influential week from the perspective of Fed speakers and some of the information that's coming out. Now, I also want to talk about what else is happening next week, and that's going to be earnings as well. On Earnings Whispers, you can go ahead and see the breadth of the entire market here, and what's being covered for these companies. Now, the most important one that I see on this list that affects crypto is going to be NVIDIA. When NVIDIA reports after the close on Wednesday, that's going to provide an important insight to the mining economy for Bitcoin, to see what their GPU sales are like. And not to mention that, but NVIDIA is a $700 billion company, and they will move the NASDAQ, and Bitcoin tends to correlate with the NASDAQ. So if NVIDIA has a good earnings, we could wind up seeing Bitcoin spike the next day, and if it has a terrible earnings, we could see Bitcoin come down with the rest of the market. So that's probably the most important company that's going to be reporting next week. All right, so that's all I've got for you guys today. If you guys like this content, let me know. Like, subscribe, and go ahead and leave a comment. And be sure to follow me on Twitter for the most up-to-date information. This is Cody the Coin Raptor, and I hope to catch you guys in the next video.